Okay, so hi, this is Dan O'Brien. I'm going to be reading a monologue from my play, The Body of an American. And this is a docudrama. There's a character that is essentially me, named Dan, and that's who I'll be reading. And he's speaking to a real person, a war reporter named Paul Watson. He's just asked me the question. Well, I'll read what he says first. So this is Paul speaking. He says, after my memoir came out, I'd hear from strangers who tell me the most intimate things about themselves, embarrassing, about their lives. They saw that just like them, I had these internal conflicts, except you didn't confess anything, which is probably why I wrote you back. Do you know that quote of Camus, where he says he solved the mystery of where war lives? It lives in each of us, he said, in the loneliness and humiliation we all feel. If we can solve that conflict within ourselves, then we'll be able to rid the world of war. Maybe. So tell me, Dan, where does war live in you? This is Dan's response. My family stopped talking to me several years ago, and I have no idea why. Well, that's not true. I have many ideas, but none of them make sense. I was about to get married, but it wasn't like they didn't approve of my wife. It had something to do with the fact that nobody would be coming from my family because they have no friends. I mean, literally, my parents don't have any friends. They can barely leave the house. And whatever's left of their own families won't speak to them for reasons I've never understood. And I'd just written a play that was the closest I'd come to writing autobiography. And my brother was in the hospital again for God knows what exactly, depression mostly. He hadn't spoken to any of us in years, which was mostly okay with me because, like everyone else in my family, I suppose I just wanted to forget he'd ever existed at all. Maybe this was all because of him, reminding my family of what happened years ago when I was 12 and he was 17, one Tuesday afternoon in February, walking up the driveway when I noticed him coming around the house with his back all pressed with snow, the back of his head white with snow. And I thought it was so funny. He wasn't wearing a jacket or shoes. He was barefoot. And by funny, I mean disturbing. I've told this story thousands of times. I hardly feel a thing. He jumped out of a window, was what I found out later, and fallen 3 stories without breaking a bone. That night, my mother cried in my arms and said, "This is a secret we will take to our graves." I developed innumerable compulsions, including counting, hand washing, scrupulosity, which is the fear that one has been sinful in word or deed or thought. I was afraid to leave the house, to touch any surface, but I hid it so well that nobody noticed. I was class president. I played baseball, soccer. I wrote secret poetry. And eventually I got out and went to college, and things went coasting along as well as things can in a family with an inexplicably cruel father and a masochistic mother who can't stop talking about nothing. Logorrhea is the clinical term, I think. Until I came home one weekend for a visit just before my wedding, and my father said I looked homeless, my beard and hair, when in fact I looked just like other adjunct professors of writing, but they told me I looked like a man who'd slit his own throat soon. They said I looked just like my father's brother, a man who disappeared after I was born. He was kind, he was funny, long hair and barefoot in jeans, a hippie and some kind of artist, the opposite of my father. I'm the spitting image of this man, they said. They were terrified for this reason. There are things you don't know, my father kept saying, without saying what it was exactly I didn't know. My mother and father were both screaming together. It felt almost sexual. There are things you don't know. I drove away and I haven't heard from them since. They are dead to me. And I don't mean that in the way it sounds melodramatically. I mean, I can't remember them. And by memory, I mean, I can't feel. I have no pictures of my childhood. It's like my entire life up until I was 33 happened to someone else, someone who's haunting me, who makes me feel cursed, makes me feel certain that yes, they're right. I've failed. Something is wrong with me. I don't know what it is, but yes, something is wrong. I've failed. I've failed. I've failed. I've failed. Only writing and running helps some. I sit at my desk like a lab rat clicking on a button that shows me who's visiting my website. And it doesn't tell me who's visiting exactly, but it shows your city or town on a map of the entire world. When I said they don't talk to me, that wasn't true. I can tell my mother checks my website at least once a day, sometimes twice. It's a compulsion, I know, but still I like seeing those dots on the map. But it's nothing. It is nothing to complain about. It's the sort of thing everybody has, and nothing compared to the unspeakable acts of cruelty you've seen, Paul.